It's kind of crooked. Welcome to another episode of Steve's Sentiments, where we talk about the meaning of life and other important things. So today's sentiment for you to ponder, not to just go out and do like a robot, is, okay, so at my job, it's commission only, and which means that it's very transaction oriented. Like I don't have the luxury of just sitting around like at a desk and doing nothing and still getting paid. I have to actually like make transactions, otherwise I don't get any money. Right, so there's this temptation to think of people as numbers, and to be what I would call transaction oriented, because I need to produce. Like I have to, okay, can I help you? No. Okay, great, next. Do you want my product? No? Okay, next. You know, it's just like, boom. You tend to see people in terms of something that they can do for you, or you tend to see people as an object. You know, like something that, where they accomplish, if they can accomplish your mission, if this person, the machine, can accomplish your mission, then you're nice, and then you're really friendly, and you want to talk to them. I like to think of this in terms of a transactional mindset, and because our whole world, like in our capitalist culture, our whole world is filled with transactions. Everything is a transaction. Everywhere you go, people are trying to get you to transact with them, whether or not, and they don't necessarily care whether or not that transaction is good for you or not. You know, does McDonald's really care if you're fat? No, they'll continue to feed you, right? Because it's your responsibility as an adult, which is so. Like, just because we're so bombarded, I think we can tend to take that transactional mindset into everything that we do. So, like, college, or your career, or even relationships, right? Like, it can be seen as transactional. Like, okay, if you give me pleasure, and you also happen to get pleasure out of the relationship, then great, you know, this is a great match. Or, if I'm getting pleasure, but you're not, but you're still willing to humor me, then I'm okay with that. Or if we decide, well, what kind of job should I get? Well, this job I have certain goals in mind to create pleasure in me, and then that's the criteria with which I choose my jobs. Okay, what's wrong with that? Is there anything wrong with that? I think about, okay, I'm in Dorchester. I don't necessarily like Dorchester because it doesn't really fit my criteria of a good place to live. Like, it's not beautiful. The people like aren't really that much like me, and it's just a lot different. It's not really that pleasant. So in other words, like transactionally speaking, my transaction is not being met. Like my pleasure is not being met by living in this place. And what about, like, I want to live on Newbury Street, which is a really cool street in Boston, and I picture myself like, you know, walking down the side, like strutting down the sidewalk, all cool in my new Gucci whatever, and I'm just super hip, and I'm this young kid in Boston, and I'm awesome. It's like, okay, so that accomplishes, you know, the transactional depth. Like, sure, that satisfies my ego, that satisfies my aesthetics, I see beautiful people around me. That's just one move deep. What am I missing out in Dorchester, where I'm, you know, like where I'm challenged? Or I wonder if there's, like, if I stay in Dorchester and I'm surrounded by things that make me feel uncomfortable, maybe there's gold here. Maybe I just have to dig to find it. I got into this huge fight with I've gotten to big fights with my roommates. Right now, like, I'm suing one of my former landlords. But as painful as that conflict was, I mean, I learned actually a lot from that conflict about myself in ways that I had to change because I wasn't behaving as I probably should have. Now, they didn't either, so it created this conflict, but I have to claim my part of it, right? So I learned a lot from that. So that pain, that, like, my pleasure was not being met, but that pain changed me in a way that will be forever. I got in a huge fight with my roommate here just over some other stuff, and I don't know if I'm just, like, prone to fighting, but I don't think so. Anyways, so we got in this huge fight, and I had to really put my foot down, and for me, it was a big exercise in drawing boundaries. I learned a lot from that again. Like, I really did grow as a person. So now, like, it's just bringing into a whole other depth of analysis with chess, okay? Now, if you play against a chess machine, like a computer, you can set it to different depth. It's called depth. And the depth of analysis has to do with how many moves you think ahead. So if you think one move ahead, that's a depth of 1. So if I make this move and they make this move, okay, well, therefore I should do this. That's a depth of 1. That's not a very high level of chess. A depth of 2, okay, now if I do this and he does this and I do this and he does this, okay, maybe that's a good move. And so on. And some of the greatest machines ever are like a depth of 26, so you can think like they're analyzing every possible move. You know, like the branch of possibilities is enormous. But often we only think of the transactional element, the immediate pleasure or pain. Or even like, I will work hard to accomplish this because it will then give me pleasure. You know what I mean? But there's a whole other depth of analysis that it can be often ignored. Like, well, what about what I will grow from? Like, if I encounter pain here, maybe it'll help me grow. If you just live your life trying to avoid pain, and not just the pain of hard work or the pain of putting, your shoulder to the wheel and accomplishing your goal, but the pain of actually, like, I don't know, it's sort of a hard thing to paint. Just at least apply that extra level of depth. It's because you could miss out on something that's real and deep and connects you to a whole different world, or you can see reality in a whole different way if you look beyond just the transactional element.